ETF Inspector. It's Thursday, June 26th, about 8:40 at night, and this will be the Thursday video for ULTY and LFGY. They are YieldMax weekly paying funds. ULTY is the Ultra Option Income Strategy, and LFGY is the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund. I'm on X. It looks like it's slow to load there. At ETF_Inspector1, let you know when the videos are coming out, if there's any delays, and of course when YieldMax makes their declarations. We're up to 974, so we might hit the 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month. It's looking like we got a chance. That'll be cool. That'll be 2 months to do it. So, but for this video, we'll take a look at how things went today. We'll start out with just in general how the stocks within the funds performed. ULTY and LFGY both performed well. ULTY closed at 627 yesterday, opened lower to pay the distribution, and closed today at 627. So when you talk about recovery rate or you talk about NAV erosion, I mean, they gave it to us and made it back all in the same day. Lots of green on the screen today, very little red. So that usually means good day for values, bad day for options, but we'll dig a little deeper and see how that goes. LFGY did even better, right? They paid out their 46 or 48 cent distribution and made 74 cents today. So very nice. Good day to have these funds. So we go to YieldMax's website around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, and the download for the intraday trades becomes available. I mean, you can always click on it, but it'll just be practically empty until all of a sudden it's not. And fortunately, today was not so bad for ULTY. This is probably the smallest day I've seen for ULTY, but LFGY made up for it with lots of trades. Okay, so we'll dig in and see what that's all about, what they did. We'll start with ULTY. That's the more popular, the fan favorite. So we look at the trades, not a whole lot. This was frustrating. We just started, I think, 2 days ago. We added Micron technology to the portfolio. I have to change formulas and move lines and update formulas all over, and then 2 days later we sell it, and that also requires all the formulas to get adjusted. So that was fun. 2 days of trading. So sold all the shares of Micron. That's why it was lined out in the thumbnail. And we also just closed out the collar strategy with we had a sold call and a purchased put. So to close them out, we had to buy the call and sell the put. So that was $1,200. No real impact. Okay. Then we went to Coin. We'll start at the top. They went ahead and closed their 350s. They had 755 contracts. Obviously, that's a loss. They had to pay over $20 to close them. They sold 385s for next week, collecting 735. So they lost over $1 million on that trade. First Solar, they closed their 150s for over $10. So again, that's a loss. They rolled to 170s for next week. So rolling up and out to collect 360 per share, losing 332,000. Rigetti, they went ahead and closed out a winner. So they bought to close their 1250s for 2 cents. So obviously they sold them for a good bit more than that. We could scroll back through the thousands of lines we have to look at that, but you're not interested. You just want to know how much money they made. So they rolled to 12, so they rolled down and out to next Friday. 26 cents collected per share, 100 shares per contract, 3,870 contracts, equal to profit of 69,000. SMCI, they closed their 45s for this Friday, paying 381, and they opened 52s for next Friday for 95 cents. That's a $715,000 loss. And finally, Tempest AI closed these for a win, paying 12 cents to close out their 74s. And of course, they're closing out the puts to go along with them. We just don't read them because they're generally pennies. And we sold 71, so they dropped the strike by $3 out the next Friday, $1.36 a share, collecting a profit of $195,000. So total for the day, it's going to be a trading loss, $1.8 million, mostly from coin and SMCI. All right, you can see it was a nice day. Value-wise, the value of the shares within the fund went up by over 13 million. That after Tuesday going up over 20 million. So value increase has been nice this week. Two down days, but the two up days are both bigger. All right, so now we'll take a look at how the stocks themselves did. We've changed things up a little bit. I'm not going to read you each individual change in market value. I'll just tell you the total at the bottom. We don't need to talk about every single stock's closing price, right? Because you're in the fund, not in the stock. So we just want to know how close we are on the options. All right. Looking in this in the money, out of the money category, right? We sold calls, so we would like them to end out of the money. So if they are in the money, that's bad. They're going to cost us. That's why they're red. If they are out of the money, they're in our favor, but they're close to danger. They're yellow. That's 5% or less. And if they're greater than 5%, it's green. Okay, so AppLovin's the first one, up 2.55%. That took their 345s into the money by 0.7%. And they've got 357.50s out till next Friday already that are still 2.89% out of the money. So we would need this to drop down about $2.45 tomorrow for this to be a nice cheap closeout. AST Space Mobile up 1.3%. So they were slightly out of the money. They are now 1.2% in the money on those 50s. So again, we'd need them to give that back tomorrow to not have to take a loss closing these out. They've got 56s out till next Friday that are over 10% out of the money. Coinbase went up 5.5%. We just talked about it. They went ahead and rolled those. That was a loss of about $1 million, but as you can see, it was an increase in value of almost $1.5 million. So one's realized, one's not, right? Because that's just until the stock moves up or down again. Whereas once you buy or sell something, that locks it in. But First Solar up 1.92%. They went ahead and rolled the further in the money calls that were at 150, but they still have the 152.50s that are 2% in the money. So they would need to drop 2% tomorrow to not take losses on both of those. Robinhood up 2.14%. Calls are still over 4% out of the money. IonQ was the big winner today, up 7.9%. That hurt. It took the 40s into the money by 2.7%, but they did not roll them. And then they also have 42.50s and 43.50s. You can see the contract amounts here, 1,100, 1,300, and 3,700. So the other ones are 3.3 and 5.7% out of the money. So we'd like them to give back about 2.7% tomorrow. LabU up 1.39%, still 3.5% out of the money on those calls. Mara went up 1.94%, taking their 15s in the money. Fortunately, that's the smaller batch of contracts, 953. They've got 11,000 plus contracts that are still 1.5% out of the money with one trading day to go. Mobileye, that's a brand new one, went up 2.9%, so we're already flirting with danger. 0.3% out of the money, and these have to last until next Friday. MicroStrategy down a little over 0.5%. Took our calls slightly further away from the money, 0.9 and 1.5% out of the money. Micron Technology, we sold the shares, held them for 2 days, got rid of them, and closed out the options to go with them. Nike went up 2.8%. Their calls expiring tomorrow are 3.9% out of the money. Oklo up 0.5%. They've got calls at 58 for this week, 3.8% out of the money, and 65 for next week, 16% out of the money. Roughly even split there, 2,200 and 2,400 contracts. Palantir up nearly 1%. Took their calls 1.5% in the money and 2.6% out of the money. So we need them to drop tomorrow, at least at a point and a half. Reddit up 1.6%. Oh, I messed up my color in there. That's green. That's good. So they're still 7.6% out of the money with those 155s, but they are out till next Friday. Rigetti up 0.18%. These 1250s were far enough out of the money that they just went ahead and closed them for a win. They left the 1150s since they're a little closer, so another day of time decay can bring that price down before closing them. So as long as it doesn't jump up 3.5% tomorrow, we'll be able to take a total win on Rigetti. RH up 3.26%. Basically took us from a 1.5% out of the money to 1.5% in the money. But they didn't roll them out, so we're hoping they give half of today's gain back tomorrow. SMCI up 5.7%. That took their 45s far enough in the money that they rolled them. They left their 49s that are out till next Friday still in play. They're only 0.5% in the money. New Scale Power, that's SMR. This is the big loser for today, so you know it's a good day when your biggest loser out of almost 30 high volatility stocks went down 1%. So they have July 3rd calls. I keep saying next Friday. I haven't looked at a calendar. For some reason, I'm thinking the 4th of July is on a Friday, so maybe we're talking about next Thursday. But either way, next week. 4250s are 11% out of the money. Tempest AI up 4.3%. They've got the 74s were far enough that they were a nice cheap close even with the increase, so they rolled them. The 70s are still fairly close to the money, but they're 2.4% out of the money, so they're going to just let time decay and close them tomorrow. TNA up 4.6%. Took these from out of the money to in the money, 3250s. They're 2.5% in the money, so hopefully they give some of that back. And then they also have 34s out till next week that are 1.9% out of the money. TQQQ up 2.75%. Again, another one. They were almost 2% out of the money in our favor. Now they're 0.7% in the money. So they're going to let that ride, close it tomorrow. They also have 81s for next week that are 0.5% out of the money. So that's a long time on a triple leverage fund for 0.5%. We need that to stay flat or drop. Tesla down 0.5%. They've got 337.50s for this week that are 3.6% out of the money, and 340 strike prices for next week, 4.3% out of the money. Upstart went up almost 1.5%. They still chose not to roll these, so the 62s are 2.1% in the money, and the 67s are 5.7% out of the money. So at least those are looking like they could be a win. Vertiv Holdings up 1.7%. Took them basically from just out of the money to almost 1.5% in the money. They're for this Friday, so they'll be rolled tomorrow, and Vista Corps will be rolled tomorrow too. The almost 2% increase took them 0.2% in the money. So hopefully just give a little bit back. Really, if it gets real close to the end of the day and it's only 0.2% in the money, it'd probably still end up closing as a win, just not as good of one. I don't think they let things get very late in the day on Friday, though. So this is the sum of just the individual, the underlying shares. It doesn't include all the different options. The 613 includes the options, but that was all as of close yesterday, right? We don't get all those updates until the holding download comes out the next morning. So roughly this increased 613 million by 13 million. Take away the loss in trading, but then add or take away if people bought into or sold out of the fund. We don't find that out till the morning, but yesterday there was 1.6 million more shares added, bringing our outstanding just under 100 million shares. Obviously, the NAV isn't going to match up, so the NAV is never like current, except for when we're on a non trading day. So it has time to catch up, and there's no trades to change anything. But well over 600 million now, and growing. All right, and we can move over to LFGY now. Now, LFGY had a whole lot more trades, but we're going to be able to get through them pretty quick because, for the most part, if you take a look here at the top, they just sold a portion of most, if not all. I don't think it is all, but it's most of the underlyings. Okay, they didn't sell out of anything. Every sale is less than $1 million, really. 200, 600,000. 600,000 is the biggest. So I'm guessing maybe this was just to free up some money for the distribution, but who knows? But if you sell the shares when you had, actually before you can sell the shares, you're going to have to close out the options associated with them, because if you take a look, they're going to sell as many contracts as they possibly can, right? 63,338 shares means you can sell 633 contracts, and so on. All right, so if you sell any shares and your options are off of those shares, then you got to close the options. So other than these couple that are in orange, I think it's just those three things they rolled. Everything else is just closing out based off of selling shares. So we won't read them line by line. We'll only focus on the 3 rolls. So BitDeer, they bought to close their 1250s. Did well on the big chunk, 3,400 contracts. They only paid 6 cents. Somehow, for the 100 contracts, they paid 28 cents. So, but anyway, closed them out for a win. Sold 1150, so dropped it $1. Pushed it out 2 weeks just to collect 52 and 60 cents. Overall profit of 138,000. Coinbase was a loss, right? Coinbase ran up past the call strike prices, so they had to close their 360s for tomorrow. They sold 390s for next week, paying 14 and 13, collecting 6 and 7. That's a loss, 569,000. Core Scientific bought to close their 1250s. So odd, right? So they closed out 1250s paying $3.83 a share here, and they closed out 1250s paying 10 cents a share here. So let's just take a quick look. Yeah. So basically, they closed out the small amount of shares. Are we on the 1 day? Yeah, they closed out the small amount of shares here, and then later in the day had to roll because the stock ran up past their strike price. That stinks. So if they'd have rolled them earlier in the morning, this would have been a winning story, but instead it was a $2.1 million losing story. But that's just bad luck on timing. Did we see? Not to spend too much time on this. Nothing. There's nothing saying what happened. Okay, we're not going to go into an article to find out. So, all right, all the rest just closing out options to go with it. So small transactions. I mean, we're talking $15, sometimes $14. So you don't want to read those line by line. We'll look at the total trading profit and loss. They lost 2.6 million. That does not include these sales, right? If it's an option income strategy fund, I only count the option income for the profits and losses on option. When they buy or sell shares, I don't count that against them. I did total that up, and it equaled enough to pay out the distribution plus make up for the loss. So maybe that's what they were doing. But As you can see, share values increased almost 5.4 million today. So loss of 900,000 on Monday, not loss, but decrease in value, then increases 7 million, 1.7 million, 5.3. So overall going up. That's why we went up over $40 a share and are doing well even after paying the distribution. And we've just been losing on the trading each day. That's going to happen when your shares go up that much. So we'll look at the stocks themselves. BitDeer up 4.38%. We already talked about it. They rolled that position because it was nice and far out of the money, so they closed that for a win. CleanSpark up almost 2%. Still 1.7% out of the money. These are out till next week, though, so they won't be getting closed out tomorrow. Coinbase, they rolled these after a 5.5% increase. Core Scientific, this was the one, right? So they went up 33%, and it was not a steady throughout the day. It all of a sudden, all at once. So we could have been telling them really we wouldn't have. So if we had rolled the rest of them early, we would have rolled and picked a real low price, and then it would have jumped 33% with more than a week of time left, and so it would have been even more expensive to close out. So you can't win them all. But we lost, what do we say, about $2 million on that trade? $2.1 million on the trade, and the shares increased in value $2.4 million. Galaxy Digital up 5.57%. So we were out of the money on all the sold calls before today. Now we're almost 5% in the money. There's only 47 contracts there at 1950. The vast majority, 1,000 contracts at 2050, are 0.1% out of the money. So we need a flat or down start, because if it starts to run up, then they're going to end up paying more and just closing it out. So if you're asking yourself, like, hey, if we just saw what they rolled it to, so really we could have the new numbers over here, the new options. Problem is, I used to do that, but then I put them in different slots than they do, just guessing incorrectly. And then when I download the holdings, nothing lines up. All my formulas are off. So that's why I just wait till the next day and download the holdings and put them in, because I end up having to do twice as much work the next day anyway. And then, not to mention, these columns would be blank, because I wouldn't know unless I looked up every single option for every single stock, and I won't be doing that, I promise. Okay, GameStop. Sorry for that rant. Up 1.4%. Still 2.6% out of the money, closing tomorrow, so we'll be rolling them one way or another, hopefully for a win. Robinhood up 2.14%, but these already got rolled after blowing through the strike price earlier in the week, so they're out till next week, 6.5% out of the money. Hut 8 Corp up 7%. Again, one that was looking good, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. 3.6% in the money. They did not close them today, so we will be rolling them tomorrow. iBit went down 0.2%. We don't trade options on them, so it's just value increases and decreases. Mara Holdings up 1.94%. So these 15s were barely out of the money before today started, and now they are 27 cents in the money, or 1.7%. MBTX, we don't own any shares. They just do the options trades on them. They have a credit call spread. So the calls that are sold are currently 2% out of the money. And then they have a debit put spread. So they paid for more for the 230, and they're betting that it goes below 230 before December 31st. So you can ignore that. It is 9% out of the money, but we want this to go in the money for this to make us money. Mercado Libre up about 0.75%, still almost 2% out of the money, but these have already been rolled to next week after going through their strike earlier this week. MicroStrategy, the big loser, down 0.57% in this fund, which helped. So luckily they didn't close these out yesterday, with 2 days of time decay being about 0.9% in the money. So today's drop is going to bring down that price, and then also going a whole nother day of time decay. So that was a good move, not closing that out. And then they have 45 more contracts that are 3.5% out of the money at 400. NU up 1.2%. Already has been rolled the next week, so they're 4.5% out of the money. NVIDIA up 0.46%. Again, another one that has already been rolled the next week, and these are already in the money, so not looking good, but basically needed to sit still for an entire week. Opera up 1.85%. This has been rolled all the way out to July 18th, so 7% out of the money. We'll just be watching that one for a while. PayPal up 0.14%, 0.23% in the money. My guess would be, though, that a 0.14% increase didn't hurt the option price as much as letting another day go by helped it. So 0.23%. Let's see. So realistically, if this went all the way to close tomorrow, it would only cost 17 cents to close them out if it stayed here, because they're 17 cents in the money. So that would still be considered a win. But if it could come down a little, that would make it cheaper to close out earlier in the day. Riot Platforms up over 5%. Again, these were doing okay. Now their 10s are 4.8% in the money, and their 1050s are 0.1 or 1 cent in the money. Again, not bad. So even if it ended this way, this wouldn't be bad, because 181 contracts are nothing compared to 6,000, and if 6,000 contracts end 1 cent in the money, we're still going to be able to close them out pretty cheap. Riot's 69% IV, so it'll have some extrinsic value, but it won't be crazy. But all these are going to get rolled tomorrow regardless. Tesla lost 0.5%, 4.3% out of the money. These have already been rolled after a bigger update earlier in the week, so we've got them till next week. And then Block up 0.46%, still 1.37% out of the money. Whoa, sorry about that. So those expire tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to close them for a win. Altogether, $5,396,000 increase. For some reason, I'm missing something, but okay. LFGY, like we said, up to $40.33, even after paying us that nice distribution. $138 million-ish dollars worth of value in the funds. 3.5 million outstanding shares still. All right, so that's everything. That's your update. Tomorrow is payday, so that'll be nice. Wonder what you guys are doing with it. I like to buy more shares as long as my fund is below my cost basis. If not, so I don't do drip because I want to buy it on my time. I don't want to buy it on an up day. I want to buy it on days where it drops below. So let's say I get the payday tomorrow, but it's up. I just sit on it and wait, and I'll wait for a down day so I can buy down my average. All right. Only thing left is the dad joke of the day. So thank you if you made it this far. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. I've been getting lots of positive feedback. I don't mind negative or feedback either. If you don't like something, you don't have to be a jerk about it. But if there's things that you'd like to see changed, I will consider them for sure. I don't just think my way's best. I've taken a lot of feedback, and that's caused a lot of improvements. So, but thank you. Please hit the like button if you liked it. Please share, subscribe, all the good stuff, and come back tomorrow for the next video. So, dad joke of the day. Do you know where you can buy chicken broth in bulk? The stock market. It's a pretty applicable joke for this video. All right. Good luck trading tomorrow, and we'll have a pretty big video tomorrow for all the rolls of everything that hasn't been rolled already, and we'll see how many trades we win. So have a good night and good luck trading tomorrow.